The Chinese film industry started when Zhang Zhixu and Zhang Zhixuan shot the first Chinese movie, The Difficult Couple, in 1913. And from that enormous step, the Chinese film industry was influenced by the American filmmaking style. Although having big budget movies an unlimited amount of potential, China relied on historical events instead of leaning on the more creative side of filmmaking. Now, throughout the years, China was hiding a man that possessed extraordinary abilities to create captivating stories, and that man is Zhang Yimou. By the way, if I butcher the names, I tried. It's been like an hour and I was trying to say their names. Zhang Yimou established himself as one of the biggest directors in the Chinese filmmaking industry. He created unforgettable cinematic masterpieces filled with mind-boggling shots. And with that told, this man made films like The Curse of the Golden Flower, House of Flying Daggers, Red Sorghum, Rise of the Red Lantern. Zhang Yimou has a gift of immersing you into a world that makes your eyes stuck to the screen. He loves to tell stories about suffering and persevering. Zhang Yimou started his successful career as a cinematographer and said, "I'm not done yet." And he shot and acted in a film called The Old Will and won the Best Actor award at the Tokyo International Film Festival. Anybody could do that, right? In my attempt to binge watch all of Zhang Yimou's films, I stumbled on a film called The Flower of War, which was banned in Japan. Let me guess why. To be fully honest, what caught my eyes is the new element Zhang Yimou added to his films, and that is diversity. Judging Zhang Yimou's filmography, back then the idea of exploring other cultures or using external elements from outside his culture didn't cross his mind. But when the time came, he got the chance to work with the man himself, Christian Bale. Working with a Hollywood A-list actor like Christian Bale was something fairly new for Zhang Yimou. Now you'll think that communication was a hard thing to do for both Christian Bale and Zhang Yimou, but the result told us the complete opposite. Unfolding the tragic event of the Battle of Nanking, which was led by Matsu Iwayne, reminded the people, especially the Japanese, of the horrible things that dehumanized them at that time. Now let me tell you about The Flowers of War, which I recommend going to watch a movie. And if you don't want to watch the movie and you just want to listen to me talk about the whole story of this movie, I'm going to unfold the whole story of The Flowers of War, the middle of a conflict between Japan and China. A man by the name John Miller was called upon to bury the body of Father Engelman, an American priest who has been in China for many years. His church is supposedly nurture ground of the war between China and Japan. But judging from what the Japanese soldiers were doing, respecting the international rules of engagement wasn't one of the things that General Matsu was ordering. On his way to the church, John Miller had to get past a few Japanese soldiers. And in the midst of it, he found two innocent girls hidden in a container. Lucky for him, those girls were students of the convent. They managed to guide him to the Winchester Cathedral. As they arrived, a little boy opened the church gates for them and took John to Father Engelman's body, which was blasted by the enemy. Since the body of Engelman got blasted away, John persisted on getting his money for the miles he walked and the risks he took to get there. The boy told him that they had no money, so John decided to spend the day in the church. After several hours, the church gates got knocked by a group of fancied-up ladies, recklessly screaming and arguing in front of the gate. George opened the gate doors to inform the ladies that visitors are not welcomed at this time. They got angry and proceeded to argue with him as one of the prostitutes were climbing the brick wall, landing on the field. The ladies head to the church, casually ignoring George as they enter the church. Time passes, and before you know it, the lady dominated the place, settling in the cellar and enjoying themselves. John called them out the cellar as the ladies were amazed by this Westerner, boosting his ego as he flirts with them, fooling all of the ladies but one. And she's the brightest of them all. And surprisingly, she was able to speak English, which made John attracted to her. All of the nights the kids and the prostitutes spent with John Miller confirmed that John is nothing but a useless, selfish Westerner. The following day, the Japanese army attacked the church in search of the young, innocent girls. The Japanese soldiers were insane and unhinged, committing heinous crimes against the students, brutally dropping one of the girls from the top floor and killing her. And all of these atrocious acts sank into the mind of John. He stood in the face of the Japanese soldiers and took the hit in an attempt to protect the girls and got knocked out. Hope was lost, but majorly crashed their party when he shot a Japanese soldier across a far building, baiting them to his trap. and unfortunately taken himself out with them. Due to the amount of damage the Japanese army had done, Hasegawa, the colonel, decided to go to the church and apologize to John Miller, the owner of the church, and asked for his knowledge. Hasegawa offered all the food that was available in Nanking, then demanded the priest to prepare the girls to sing for him the next time he visited the church. John prepared the girls, and when the day arrived, the choir gave such beautiful and soothing music. Colonel Hasegawa apprised John that there were orders from above to take the girls to the Japanese division to celebrate the successful occupation of Nanking. John respectfully declined the offer to take the girls, knowing the dangers of letting the girls in the hands of those insane Japanese soldiers. Hasegawa ignored what John said and told him the girls will be taken by tomorrow morning. John tried to talk some sense into Hasegawa, but got shut down by one of the soldiers. Before all the Japanese soldiers left the church, one of them counted how many girls that were in the choir, and he included one of the prostitutes and summed them up to 13 girls. Yimou came up with a plan to replace herself with one of the girls, and the other ladies volunteered to sacrifice themselves, so the little girls get to live a life without being traumatized. John sat in the room contemplating his life decisions. The door knocked. Carelessly, John allowed the person to come in, and Mr. Ming's voice whispered. Calling John, Mr. Ming collected all the car pieces that John needed to get the car going and escape with the kids. John thanked Mr. Ming profusely and asked if there was anything else he could help them with. Mr. Ming tried his best to help the kids and left his daughter in the hands of John. In the morning, they got everything intact. The soldiers came back and took all the prostitutes and George, disguised as one of the students, putting his life on the line to live up to what Father Engelman wanted him to be, a protector. John and the students managed to escape the terrifying events of Nanking, in exchange of losing all of their loved ones. Now, after laying out the story for you guys, I think merging actual historical events with a fictional story is such a great idea. It puts fascinating and complicated characters in such brutal environment. Every character in this movie felt important to the story, and following their journey to fulfill their goals made it much more personal. Watching Major Lee lose all of his comrades and still have the courage to fight back, not just for the soldiers that have died, but for the innocent girls that had to see their loved ones die before them. They conveyed the struggle of Major Lee and the responsibility that is on his shoulder reasonably. Now I'm gonna nitpick a little. The pacing of the story is fairly new to anything I've ever seen from Chang Yimou. The scenes were chopped up and fast. Their reliance on jump cuts at the start of the film slightly ruined the introduction of each character. They didn't give time for each line to breathe. But regardless, I was immersed and baffled of how well the movie was shot and directed. Having the kids struggle with speaking English while trying to communicate makes the interaction between them and the mortician heartwarming and playful. It catches you off guard, and before you know it, you crack a smile staring at the screen. Another thing that I've noticed is that there's a sense of humor hitting in the performances that kind of feels disconnecting from the initial feeling that I should be having. There's a couple of scenes that made me scratch my head thinking, am I supposed to laugh or cry now? And perhaps it's because of the contrast in the performances between someone like Kristen Bell and like a Chinese actor or actress, which I'm going to talk about later in the video. Now, some of you might be asking, how do I know if a film has good cinematography? And I'm going to give you the simplest explanation. Let me put you in this situation. If you pause a movie by accident or intentionally, and you looked at the screen and you thought to yourself, oh wow, that'll be so dope as my desktop wallpaper. There you go. That's cinematography to you. That's good cinematography. And The Flower of War had the cinematographer Zhao Xiaoding. Zhao Xiaoding has an incredible talent of creating an atmosphere that is extremely engaging. Zhao Xiaoding's composition is slightly different from what I'm used to. His style of cinematography is old school, and I think that's what makes him quite special. Utilizing bright colors to accentuate the Chinese traditions has been the one thing that stood out in Zhao Xiaoding's work for me. Using close-ups and taking advantage of having these stunning, enormous, juicy, big glass windows. See, you got a dirty ass mind. I was talking about the windows, greasy, because they're greasy too and they're thick. Hey, clean your mind. By creating silhouettes and beautiful imagery. In terms of having a great visual experience, I think he did a great job, but it's no comparison to what he's done in the past projects. A film like Flowers of War showcased different methods of acting, and also a diverse cast that allowed us to witness various methods of acting. Things like face expression, body language, tone were so unique to the Chinese cast. And I gotta give Nini some props, cause Flowers of War was her debut performance. Not forgetting about Kristen Bell, but first let's just thank Steven Spielberg, cause he recommended Kristen Bell for a leading role. I'm not surprised to see him in a Chinese film. I don't know the guy, but that's such a Kristen Bell move. He explored almost every genre that exists, and he took a little trip to Japan to destroy the voice acting market. His knowledge of acting with actors or actresses around the world made him a candidate for the film. Plus, whoever made the decision to keep Kristen Bell's laugh in the background, I love you. They've successfully cultivated an authentic relationship between the characters, so much that it felt like a family. The sad stories that Zhang Yimou blesses us with is so unique and intriguing, capturing true emotions that are plaintive and painful. A movie that captured similar vibes but paced faster and more hyperkinetic is Creed 3. I discussed this movie in this video, and if you like this video too, like it, subscribe, and watch this video. See ya.